Not every boat was built to win races or conquer oceans. Some were born from wild imagination, late-night experiments, or plain bad ideas that somehow made it onto the water. From floating hot tubs to caravans that sink more than they sail, these boats make you ask one simple question. Why? Yet each one is real, and each has left behind a story stranger than fiction. Stick with us, because by the end you'll see just how far people will go when they decide to build something that floats, no matter how silly it looks. Seattle is home to hot tub boats, and they're exactly what you imagine. A steamy jacuzzi bolted onto a floating platform, complete with an electric motor to gently push you around Lake Union. The water is wood-fired and piping hot, while the view is whatever happens to drift past. It's equal parts relaxing and ridiculous. Couples often book them for romantic evenings, only to discover steering while half submerged in bubbles isn't as smooth as advertised. One pair even admitted they drifted into a moored houseboat because they were too distracted topping up champagne flutes. Locals say the real comedy is watching these bath boats putter past proper yachts. Nothing kills the glamour of a millionaire's cruiser faster than a floating hot tub full of giggling tourists. The BBQ donut boat is a circular inflatable raft with a grill plopped in the middle, the aquatic answer to the backyard cookout. Up to 10 people sit around the ring, flipping burgers while drifting across calm water. It's part picnic, part hazard, and fully absurd. It started in Germany and quickly spread as a novelty rental. Office teams loved them for bonding exercises, though one story tells of a manager dropping his bratwurst overboard and declaring it a sacrifice to Neptune. The crew laughed harder than they ever had at work. Sure, smoke blows everywhere and you'll always burn at least one sausage, but somehow that's part of the charm. On these boats, grilling mistakes end up as fish food. If you think floating grills are ridiculous, wait until you see what's next. Trust me, the boats ahead get even sillier. Stick around and hit subscribe so you don't miss them. In Florida, someone decided tiki bars should float, and cruising tikis were born. Shaped like round drink coasters with palm frond roofs, they motor slowly through harbors while passengers sip Mai Tais and wave at baffled onlookers. They're Coast Guard approved, though not immune to comedy. Captains admit their hardest job is reminding tipsy riders not to toss plastic leis into the water. Retirees rent them for birthdays, proving life really does begin at 70. One woman confessed she booked a tiki cruise for her divorce party, reasoning it was cheaper than therapy. Silly? Absolutely. But in Florida, nothing feels more normal than watching a cocktail hut chug past your fishing boat. Britain's piano boat is a narrow canal vessel converted into a floating concert hall, complete with a baby grand piano squeezed inside. Guests crowd into the cozy cabin to hear classical recitals as ducks paddle alongside outside. The acoustics aren't perfect. Once a pianist lost rhythm when a passing wake rocked the hull, but the audience clapped anyway. The novelty of Bach performed on a swaying canal beats any concert hall's formality. Owners say they created it to bring music closer to people. In reality, it also brought laughter, as few concert venues risk colliding with fishermen mid-performance. Moored in London's Canary Wharf, St. Peter's Barge is Britain's only floating church. It offers Sunday services, midweek Bible studies, and even weddings, all while gently rocking with passing wakes. Worshippers say the swaying adds unexpected drama to hymns. One bride laughed that her marriage vows included seasickness tablets. Tourists stumbling on it often think it's a quirky cafe until the hymns start. It may lack grandeur, but it has character. A place where faith floats, literally. The Sealander is a German invention that doubles as a camping trailer and a boat. Tow it to the lake, unhitch, and drive it straight into the water where it transforms into a floating pod. It looks charming but indecisive, part caravan, part dinghy, unsure of its own identity. Owners adore it, though one joked he only trusted it in calm ponds, because waves make me feel like my camper's seasick. Silly. Absolutely. But it nails one dream perfectly. Never having to choose between camping and boating. Long before the Sealander, Britain tried the same idea with the caraboat in the 1970s. It was a fiberglass caravan boat hybrid with bold ambitions and, sadly, poor execution. Owners complained of leaks, clumsy handling, and styling that looked like a shoebox on water. Yet today, collectors prize them for their kitschy charm. At rallies, they're shown off more for laughs than for voyages. One proud owner admitted he never actually launched his "I just park it in the driveway and watch neighbors shake their heads." Proof that sometimes failure can still float. Built in Malta, the Amphicoach looks like a plush sightseeing bus until it suddenly drives into a river. Passengers gasp, scream, and grab cameras as the wheels leave the road and the hull takes over. The transition is the best part. One tourist admitted he prayed during the plunge, only to burst out laughing when they floated. Moments later, everyone relaxes as the guide resumes pointing out landmarks. It's tourism with a twist. Silly. Completely. But unforgettable all the same. We've seen campers and caravans hit the water, but the list is just warming up. The next boats will blow your mind, so stay tuned and tap subscribe before we dive deeper. During the 1960s, American designers decided boats needed tail fins. The Cadillac Sealark was a fiberglass runabout dressed up with chrome, a grille, and styling cues ripped straight from Detroit boulevards. The fin served no purpose but spectacle. Owners couldn't launch without hearing shouts of "Nice caddy" from the shore. Admirers loved it, skeptics rolled their eyes, and mechanics questioned its sanity. One collector admitted he never used his Sealark for fishing, only for showing off. It was less boat, more floating car show. Chris Craft marketed its Constellation line as yachts for everyone. The irony? They stretched over 50 feet, drank fuel like a thirsty sailor, and cost as much as suburban houses. Owners loved them as floating mansions. Think cocktail bars, polished wood, and endless family squabbles about docking fees. Simply tying one up was a neighborhood event. Ridiculous in its promise but glorious in size, the Constellation was boating's version of suburban excess. Not for everyone, but unforgettable for anyone who saw one. The Sea Breacher is what happens when engineers get bored of jet skis. Designed to look like sharks or killer whales, it dives below the surface and then leaps out like a marine predator. Inside, 2 riders strap into seats with fighter jet controls. Spectators on shore often scream, mistaking it for an actual animal before realizing it's a stunt craft. Riders describe the feeling as equal parts roller coaster and submarine, complete with water rushing over the canopy. One owner joked he scared his in-laws so badly on their first ride, they refused to get back in. Equal parts thrilling and absurd, the Sea Breacher is part toy, part practical joke on Mother Nature. Italy's jet capsule is a carbon fiber mini yacht pod that looks like a UFO plopped into the marina. Futuristic and compact, it can be fitted with anything from luxury seating to a rooftop deck. From afar, it resembles a giant floating golf cart, but step inside and you'll find leather seats and mood lighting. Admirers love its spaceship look. Skeptics call it a glorified bubble bath with an engine. One Italian owner admitted he loved cruising past fishing boats just to hear puzzled fishermen mutter, "What is that thing?" Stylish yet silly, the jet capsule is proof that design sometimes values drama over seaworthiness. The Schiller S1 water bike looks like a road bicycle strapped to twin pontoons, complete with pedals connected to a small propeller. It's powered entirely by human effort, which makes it equal parts sporty and absurd. Fitness enthusiasts rave about the workout, while casual riders often collapse in laughter at the sight of lycra-clad cyclists pedaling across lakes. Onlookers cheer them on, as if it's the Tour de France, only wetter. One rider confessed he fell in twice before getting the hang of steering. Still, he claimed it was worth it just for the photos. Silly, impractical, but undeniably fun, the Schiller proves cycling isn't limited to land. If the Schiller is quirky, the Manta 5 hydrofoiler is ambitious. It's an electric hydrofoil bike that actually rises above the water once up to speed, giving the illusion of cycling on invisible wings. Beginners usually spend more time falling than flying. But once airborne, riders describe the sensation as magical, gliding silently above waves like a futuristic dolphin. Watching from shore is equally entertaining, especially when someone crashes mid-demonstration. One proud owner admitted he bought it just to post Instagram clips. Whether elegant or silly depends on the rider, but it's hard to deny its addictive charm. Austria's Cormoran K7 is less a boat and more a transformer. Made of carbon fiber, it can morph from monohull to catamaran, to trimaran, to full hydrofoil with the press of a button. Demonstrations draw gasps as it shifts shape on the water. But ask an owner, and most will sheepishly admit they stick to one mode. Too many buttons. One laughed. I just use it as a catamaran. It's absurd in its versatility, but impressive as a feat of engineering. If nothing else, the K7 proves humans will never stop tinkering, even when the result is a very expensive toy. We're halfway through and the rides only get stranger. From Soviet monsters to flying boats, the next stretch is pure chaos. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe and ride this madness with us. The Lun-class Ekranoplan was a Soviet Cold War marvel, or monstrosity, depending on your view. Neither ship nor plane, it skimmed the sea on massive wings, carrying 6 nuclear-capable missiles. At over 240 feet long, it looked like Godzilla's personal yacht. NATO pilots nicknamed it the Caspian Sea Monster, unsure whether to fear it or laugh. One Russian test pilot later admitted, "It flew like nothing else," and it terrified everyone who saw it. Equal parts absurd and menacing, the Lun remains one of the strangest war machines ever built. Before the Lun came, the KM, the original Caspian Sea Monster. Built in the 1960s, it was the largest ground effect vehicle ever. Longer than a Boeing 747 and heavier than sanity should allow. It skimmed just feet above the waves, creating a wall of spray that startled fishermen and baffled Western spies. Its sheer size made it both impressive and laughable. Ultimately, it crashed during testing, cementing its legend as the Soviet machine that looked too silly to exist, yet somehow did. Singapore's Airfish 8 is a modern take on wing-in-ground craft. It seats 8 passengers and flies just above the water's surface using ground effect, making it faster and quieter than a ferry. From the dock, it looks like a sci-fi prototype that wandered out of a movie set. Tourists boarding it often joke they're about to star in Star Wars. One passenger summed it up. "It felt like flying, but we never left the sea." Silly in appearance, yet seriously functional, the Airfish is proof the line between planes and boats is blurrier than ever. German engineer Alois Wobben built the E-Ship 1, a cargo ship topped with 4 giant spinning cylinders called Flettner rotors. They harness the Magnus effect to capture wind and save fuel. Innovative? Yes. Attractive? Not exactly. Most people describe it as a floating toothbrush or a giant kitchen appliance chugging across the ocean. One sailor confessed he nearly fell off his own deck laughing when he first spotted it. Silly looking but smart, the E-Ship proves you can be eco-friendly and still look ridiculous doing it. The WAMV, nicknamed Proteus, is a wave-adaptive modular vessel that looks like a spider tiptoeing across the water. 2 inflatable pontoons are connected to a suspended pod with spindly arms that flex with waves. To bystanders, it resembles a robot invasion. Passengers, however, swear the ride is smoother than luxury yachts. One scientist who tested it admitted it felt like sailing in a hammock attached to stilts. Silly in appearance, ingenious in design, the WAMV is one of the strangest silhouettes ever to cross an ocean. The kiteboat K2 from San Francisco ditches sails entirely. Instead, it uses a massive traction kite to pull the craft across the water at speeds that surprise even seasoned sailors. It's part windsurfing, part science experiment. Watching one launch is comedy in itself. Crews wrestle the kite like it's a stubborn dragon, and when it finally catches wind, the boat takes off like it has no business being that fast. One tester admitted the learning curve was brutal. We spent more time untangling lines than sailing. Still, when it works, it's an absurdly fun sight, a dinghy being yanked around like a child's toy. If the kiteboat was ambitious, the Kite Tender 400 is its sillier cousin. This tiny dinghy has no sails or engine, just a kite clipped to the bow. The result? A glorified inflatable being dragged by string. From shore, it looks like someone forgot how boats work. The rider sits back while the kite does all the work, occasionally dunking them sideways when the wind shifts. It's not fast, it's not practical, but it's undeniably hilarious. As one owner put it, it's like kite surfing, but I don't have to stand up. In the 1990s, the Hobie Trifoiler was billed as the fastest production sailboat in the world, topping 40 knots on hydrofoils. It looked less like a boat and more like a giant insect skimming the waves. Sailors adored the speed, though spectators mostly laughed at its spidery profile. With 3 hulls, wings, and foil struts, it resembled a boat that had been designed during a sugar rush. One racer said he loved the thrill, but admitted it felt like piloting a dragonfly that wanted to kill me. Silly to look at, but dead serious on performance. France's L'Hydroptère shattered records in 2009 by breaking the 50-knot sailing barrier. It looked like a spaceship balanced on stilts, screaming across the water faster than many powerboats. Crowds were amazed, but also confused. People asked whether it was a plane that had crashed or a sailboat from the future. Either way, jaws dropped. Even sailors admitted it was absurd to sail. "You don't sit in it," one quipped. "You strap in and hope." Silly in shape, legendary in speed, L'Hydroptère was both ridiculous and revolutionary. Moored in Canary Wharf, St. Peter's Barge doubles as London's only floating church. Worshippers gather on Sundays for hymns and sermons, all while bobbing gently on the Thames. Visitors say the sway makes sermons feel more dramatic. One bride joked her vows came with seasickness pills. Tourists often mistake it for a cafe until the hymns start. It's not grand, but it is memorable. Proof that faith floats just fine. Britain's piano boat is a narrow canal barge converted into a traveling concert hall. Inside, a baby grand piano fills most of the space, leaving just enough room for an audience of music lovers. The acoustics aren't ideal. Once, a performer lost rhythm when a passing wake rocked the hull, but the crowd clapped anyway. The novelty more than made up for the wobble. Few concert venues can say they've dodged fishermen mid-Beethoven. Silly, charming, and entirely British, the piano boat turns a canal cruise into culture. Florida's cruise-in tikis are round floating bars topped with palm roofs and surrounded by bar stools. They drift lazily as passengers sip drinks and wave to onlookers. Captains admit their biggest job is keeping guests from tossing leis overboard. Retirees often rent them for birthdays, proving you're never too old for a floating party. One rider even threw a divorce celebration on board, declaring, "Cheaper than therapy." Silly? Absolutely. But nothing says Florida like a tiki hut with an outboard motor. Anthonea is a French-designed floating hotel pod shaped like a UFO. Solar-powered and futuristic, it promises eco-luxury while looking like an alien landing craft. Inside, guests find a round bed, mini spa, and panoramic windows. Outside, locals mostly point and laugh at the spaceship bobbing in the bay. One visitor confessed he booked it purely to prank friends. They thought I'd joined a cult. Silly in shape but stylish inside, Anthonea is absurd luxury afloat. In the 1960s, Cadillac styling leapt from roads to marinas with the Sea Lark. Fiberglass fins, chrome grills, and a Detroit swagger made it more car than boat. The fins were useless hydrodynamically, but perfect for drawing stares. Launch one, and someone always shouts, "Nice, caddy!" One collector said he never caught a fish in his, but never failed to catch attention. Silly and flashy, the Sea Lark was car culture gone afloat. Chris Craft's Constellation line was marketed as yachts for everyone. The irony. They stretched over 50 feet, drank fuel like frat boys, and cost as much as houses. Owners adored them as floating mansions. Think cocktail bars, mahogany interiors, and long family feuds about marina bills. Ridiculous in its marketing, unforgettable in its presence, the Constellation was the definition of silly luxury. And that's our voyage through the 30 silliest boats of all time. From hot tubs and tiki bars to Soviet sea monsters and car-styled runabouts, these creations prove people will float just about anything. Some were brilliant, some ridiculous, and some simply unforgettable. Which one made you laugh the hardest, or would you dare to ride? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this wild cruise through nautical nonsense, give the video a like, hit subscribe, and join us next time for even stranger stories from the water.